There are at least 3 ways to build any EDH deck. But sometimes there's just one strategy that makes the most sense. Let's talk about the way that I would build Godzilla, King of the Monsters, or Zilortha, Strength Incarnate in EDH, and the video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below. Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. We're going to talk about Godzilla in EDH today. But first, if you like the video by the end of it, consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps us out as we continue to grow. Let's look at Godzilla, King of the Monsters. We've got Gruul +3 for a legendary creature dinosaur, 7/3 trampler, lethal damage dealt to creatures you control is determined by their power rather than their toughness. We want creatures with high power, and we want payoffs for creatures with those high powers. Let's jump into it. So as you can see, we're doing a little bit of a format breaker with this one. There's just one strategy with Godzilla or Zilortha, however you want to theme your deck, that makes the most sense for me, and that's high power creatures beating in and payoffs for that high power. Let's talk about some payoffs first. Great Hinge. Green 7 costs X less, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So hopefully, minimum, this is costing 5 less for us, because we're going to try and concentrate on 5 power or higher in this deck. So that would mean this costs 4. Tap to add 2 green, you gain 2 life, and whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, it gets bigger and you draw a card. That's the big part of this. We want to keep our hand full. A creature-based, power-heavy hitter deck like this has 2 real weaknesses, and that's running out of gas, running out of cards, and board wipes. So we're going to look to protect ourselves on both of those fronts. Warstorm Surge, 1 red, 5 other enchantment. Whenever a creature enters a battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. We're using this to take the place of a removal in our deck so that we can get multiple value removals off of it. Every time we have a creature entering the battlefield, 5 power, 6 power, it deals damage equal to its power to any target, planeswalker, creature that could be blocking, player that needs finishing off. Warstorm Surge in this deck is the absolute house. Where Ancients Tread, 1 red, 4 other enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield with power 5 or greater, you can have this deal 5 damage to a creature or a player. Again, that 5 can go wherever you want it, and it's going to act as repeatable removal as Godzilla and all his homies come stomping through. Sarkhan's Unsealing, 1 red, 3 other enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 4, 5, or 6, which is going to be like our baseline. That's the minimum we want to do. Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 to any target. Yet again, repeatable removal. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 7 or greater, Sarkhan's Unsealing deals 4 damage to each opponent and each creature and each planeswalker they control. This card is insane. This card is absolutely insane in this deck. We've talked about some payoffs. Let's talk about some creatures and some other power-ups that we can get. Xenagos, God of Revels. Gruul +3 for an indestructible god that's not a creature unless your devotion is equal to 7, red and green. At the beginning of combat on your turn, regardless, another target creature you control gets haste and +X/+X, where X is that creature's power. Let's pump all our 5/5s up to 10/10s. Let's pump all our 6/6s up to 12/12s. You get it? And they can be swinging the minute they hit the battlefield. Xenagos is awesome in this deck. And look, that's a mythic. We can run commons in this and it's still going to be powerful. This is essentially just a vanilla 6/6 for 5 in this deck. It's going to trigger our Warstorm Surge in a huge way. It's going to trigger our Where Ancients Tread. It's going to trigger our Sarkhan's Bonding. This is the Unsealing, This is where we want to live with this deck. We want low cost, high payoff creatures that are going to work with Godzilla to just absolutely beat down. Plus, look at this one, Street Breaker Worm. This kind of looks like something you'd see in Godzilla. Breaking up out of the ground, attacking the city. It's just a 6/4 for 5. That's all it is. But with Godzilla on the field, it's got to take 6 damage to die. It's great in this deck. Deadly Insect. This is very where we want to live. This is crazy. Giant insects, that's definitely a monster movie thing. 1 green, 4 other for a Shroud 6/1, 6/6 with Godzilla on the field. That's what I'm talking about. That's what this deck wants to do. Hunted Troll. 2 green, 2 other. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent puts 4 1/1s on with flying onto the battlefield. Push out. We don't care. This is now an 8/8 with 1 green regenerate if Godzilla's on the field. This card is bonkers in this deck. I love the absolute beatdown idea behind building this deck. Gigapede. 2 green, 3 other for a Shroud 6/1. Looks familiar. If at the beginning of your upkeep, if Gigapede's in the graveyard, you can discard a card to return it to your hand. This one can just keep coming back. We talked about running out of steam. Gigapede helps us with that. Ferocity of the Wilds. Here's one that's just going to incrementally pump up our creatures. Attacking non-humans, which is mostly what we're running. As you've seen, it's a very monster movie heavy deck. Attacking non-human creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample. So all of those creatures we just looked at that were just vanilla 6/4s, 6/1s, all of a sudden they're attacking as 7/7s and they have trample. This is the kind of thing, this is where we need to live. Get Brawn. Brawn's a good creature to have in your graveyard. Give all your stuff trample. We're going to have big creatures we want it to get through. And we need to finish the game off. Speaking of getting through, cards like Pathbreaker Ibex are going to help us do that. 2 green and 4 other for a goat. That's a 3/3. When it attacks, creatures you control gain trample, huge, and +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. We have an insect, a deadly giant insect on the battlefield. Everybody's getting +6/+6. This deck makes me giggle. I can't wait to deliver beats with Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Here's another one that's going to help us get through and finish off the game. End-Raise Forerunners. 3 green, 5 other for a 7/7, Bidgey, Trample, Haste. Word soup, baby. Whenever End-Raise Forerunners enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain Vigi and Trample until end of turn. That's exactly what we want to do. However, we can't just run creatures because, like I said, we are susceptible to board wipes in a big way with this deck. Heroic Intervention gives all of our permanents hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Problem solved. Soul of New Phyrexia. Trampling 6/6 for 6. Pay 5, permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Problem solved. Exile Soul of New Phyrexia from your graveyard. If they do happen to hit it, permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Problem solved. Spearbreaker Behemoth. 2 green, 5 other for a 5/5 is indestructible and has pay 1. Target creature with power 5 or greater is indestructible. That's sick in this deck. That's exactly what we need to be doing. I included this one in here because it's a ferocious card, and ferocious is another one of those keywords that you might want to look out for when you build this deck. As far as having high power creatures on the battlefield, see the Unwritten. 2 green, 4 other for a sorcery. It says reveal the top 8. Put a creature card from among them straight onto the battlefield. Don't even have to pay anything. And if you already have a creature on the battlefield, Godzilla, with power 4 or greater, you can put 2 creature cards onto the battlefield instead of 1. This deck looks like so much fun to me. It's very straightforward. Like I said, there's really only one good strategy to build this deck and deliver some very trampling Godzilla-style beats to your opponents. Other than cards like that, you're going to want to put some ramp in here because, as you can see, you're playing a lot of high CMC creatures. So you're going to need to be able to cast those creatures, hopefully multiples in the same turn, triggering some of your cards like the Great Henge so that you can draw more cards and play more creatures. You also may want to look at cards like Greater Good. They're going to give you some more card advantage. Specifically look for cards that are going to help keep your hand full, help get a lot of lands on the battlefield and keep that mana flowing, and help give your creatures indestructible so that you can just keep beating through with some big old beefy tramplers. That's how I would build Godzilla, King of the Monsters, or Zilortha, Strength Incarnate in EDH. Let me know if you know of a different way to build this deck that is fun and can still be competitive. Go down there, hit that like button, that subscribe button. It really helps us out. I would appreciate it if you liked the video. It lets me know to make more of these. If you want to support us further, we got a Patreon. The link is down in the description below. And if you want to hang out with us, we're streaming most Tuesday and Thursday evenings over on Twitch. We'll catch you later.